Chris Lee and Gilmer of Southeastern 14 here to preview Texas A&M's road trip to Knoxville to face the Tennessee Volunteers. The Vols 3-point favorites at Neyland Stadium with a 56.5-point over-under, making for a predicted final of 37-20. Theme of the week in the SEC is games that are pick-em games on neutral fields, according to odds makers and computers. This is another one of them. The computers see this game a lot like the odds makers do. FPI, the Vols, a 2-point favorite with the home field advantage. SP Plus has Tennessee by 3. Team Rankings has the Vols by 1. Jeff Sagarin has Tennessee by 3. Average that out. That's Tennessee, a 2-point favorite between the computers and the odds makers. The Vols have had a week off since beating South Carolina in Neyland Stadium. Defense was very disruptive in that game, and the Aggies took Alabama to the finish line in a heartbreaking loss to the Crimson Tide in College Station. Can't wait to see this one, which you can see 2:30 Central on CBS, Blayne.
Absolutely. For all you people that live in, God's country on the East Coast, that's 3:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern. So on CBS, but Tennessee for sure has the benefit of getting that bye week and getting rested up and healed up. Guys like Dante Thornton, Cooper Mays, all these guys getting healthier for them. So that is a big deal, especially with Dante Thornton. And we'll talk about this on the offensive side of the ball, but really going to have to step into a bigger role. Brew McCoy, that awful injury he sustained against South Carolina. So they've had time to work on their repertoire and their rapport with those receivers, with Brew McCoy gone with that bye week. And then Texas A&M, you can't let Alabama beat you twice, plain and simple, Chris. You gotta flush that one and move on. And now they go into a tough road environment in Rocky Top.
All right, the Aggies scoring 35.5 a game, averaging 6.3 per offensive snap, 5.1 on running plays, 7.2 on passing plays, turning it over 2% of the time. The Vols defense has been really good, giving up 17.8 per game, 4.4 per play. That's the same run as it is pass, and forcing turnovers 1.7% of the snap. Key stat here, Tennessee 22 sacks. The Vols just creating all kinds of havoc, but really have not faced a team with the total offensive talent that the Aggies have. Tennessee's schedule ranked 104th by ESPN's FPI. The tougher part of the Vols schedule, very much to come, starting with this one. And look, A&M has just got so many offensive weapons. Ainias Smith is just a continual headache. That receiving core A&M's got besides him is awfully good. Moss in the running game. I mean, Max Johnson has had almost identical numbers to Connor Wegman, who's done for the year. I'm not saying Tennessee can't get stops, but it will be tested in a way that has not been tested all year.
Yeah, and it's going to have to do what Alabama did and try to make Texas A&M one-dimensional so you can be more aware of, okay, where the ball is going with those weapons, because Alabama shut down Texas A&M's run game. They only gave them 1.9 yards per carry A&M had in that game, and that's including, as you and I have talked before, Max Johnson is elusive and he can get out and make plays with his legs and stuff like that. But even that wasn't very successful for A&M. And that's going to help that Tennessee back end if they're able to limit the run game, something they did not do in a big SEC matchup earlier this year against Florida. Now, you look at the totality of what Tennessee does, Chris, they're 5th in the country in havoc rate. Their havoc percentage, 20.4% of the time, they're creating a tackle for a loss, some kind of tip ball, a turnover, something like that. So Tennessee is very disruptive, but sometimes they were a little bit over aggressive and maybe got a little undisciplined in their gap assignments against Florida in that run game. I'm not so sure that's going to be the same element with Texas A&M in terms of how they run the football and things like that. I would be curious if Ainias Smith gets a few more carries at running back with the lack of success that they've had. They can use him as a Swiss Army utility knife type deal over there. But as you mentioned, whether it's Moose, whether it's Ainias, whether it's Noah Thomas, whether it's Evan Stewart, They have Ja'Day Walker. I mean, they've got a ton of guys who can make plays over there. And Tennessee, like I said, 5th in the country in creating havoc. They're going to have to do so to make Max Johnson have to play behind the chains and face some pressure, because otherwise you don't want to let Texas A&M and Bobby Petrino kind of dictate the pace of this one and allow them to have short third down opportunities and manageable ones and extend drives, because we know one way to disrupt a Heupel team is to extend drives against that defense and keep Joe Milton and company off the field.
Yeah, Florida did that a good bit, which Florida kind of does. And Tennessee averaging 70 snaps a game on offense, A&M only giving up 57. So the Aggies have been pretty good at keeping offenses off the field, although I hadn't seen many like Tennessee's either. On the flip side of what we talked about on the other side of the matchup, the Aggies are going to be tested like few teams will test them all year. The Vols scoring 36 a game, A&M giving up 19.8. Tennessee is rushing at 51% of the time, 6.6 yards per rushing play, and 6.7 per passing play, turnover rate of 1.7%. Aggies are giving up 4.7 yards per snap, 3.9 yards per rushing play, 5.5 per passing play, and a turnover rate of 1.5%. Wait, you say, Aggies only giving up 2.6 per carry. Well, per carry and per rushing play are different, and A&M has got 145 yards worth of sacks in there. So that comes off the passing total and not the rushing total. In case you're following along with the math, that accounts for the difference. But the Vols offensive line has only given up 6 sacks all year. I presume Cooper Mays will be healthy for this one, which is going to help them a lot. So that's going to be a battle of strength on strength. Tennessee, a team that's done a pretty good job of protecting, and the Aggies, a team that can really get after you and your quarterback.
Yeah, so I mentioned Tennessee's Havoc ranking, right? They're 5th in the country, Chris. Well, guess what? On Havoc allowed, they're 4th in the country. They've done a great job of preventing negative plays for their offense. But the bad news is Texas A&M is number 1 in the country in havoc created. 28% of the time, Chris, Texas A&M is creating a tackle for a loss, a sack, a tip ball, a turnover. They are absolutely lethal along that front 7. They held Alabama, I believe, to something paltry like 23 yards rushing on the day. Alabama had negative 13 yards rushing at halftime. When's the last time you've ever said that against a Nick Saban team? But the bad news is they allowed Jalen Milroe to go off passing the ball and Jermaine Burton to have almost 200 yards receiving against them. So Joe Milton, Dante Thornton, if he's healthy, of course, Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, all those guys, they have to be licking their chops. When you look at Texas A&M now has struggled mightily on the back end in terms of giving up explosive pass plays against Miami. Mind you, a Miami team that just lost to Georgia Tech at home this past week. And they did the same thing against Alabama at home at College Station this week. So it's strength on weakness when it comes to the Tennessee passing game, those explosive gains through the air versus the Texas A&M secondary. But it is strength on strength, like you said, when you're talking about the offensive line of Tennessee and that running game versus the front 7 of Texas A&M. It looks like when you look at all the metrics and you look at how these two teams play, it looks like a lot of this could be on Joe Milton for Tennessee and that passing game this year, Chris. And it's just been a little bit of inconsistencies here and there. Overall, Joe Milton's done some good things, but I wanted to give you a comparison. Everybody now, when you're a victim of your own success in this world, right? So when it happens, when you look at the predicted points per play, okay, predicted points per play added last year through week 6 for Tennessee was almost a half a point per play. They were really, really clipped. It's down under 0.3. It's 0.29 points predicted added per play for Tennessee. So they're definitely not as explosive, definitely not getting those chunks like they did last year, but it's going to be Joe Milton. Can he be consistent in this game?
Yeah, fascinating matchup. I still feel like I don't really know what Tennessee is offensively in a lot of ways. I know they can run the ball,
or
the
defensively.
Hype train fair. The hype train for Joe Milton was through the roof. I feel like he's kind of been in between that guy that was the player that got benched 2 years ago and the guy that lit the world on fire against Clemson and Vandy at the end of the year. This will be a much better test for him. Okay, a couple of miscellaneous things, and I had to double check this. Texas A&M ranks 82nd on special teams according to SP Plus, which seems hard to do when you get Ainias Smith. Tennessee ranks 52nd. Penalty yards, A&M 50 a game, Vols 60 a game. So Tennessee had a little trouble with discipline, I think, in that Austin Peay game, which probably inflated that a bit. But anyway, those are the stats. All right, Blayne, I feel like a broken record this week. A lot of close games where the matchup is pretty even on paper. Go with the home team. Vols pretty tough to beat in Knoxville. That's where I'm going to go on this one. And oh, by the way, as we mentioned at the top, Tennessee with the week off to rest and prepare. What do you say?
Yeah, I think with Cooper Mays getting healthy and that offensive line having 2 weeks and the benefit of being able to watch them against Alabama and kind of see what they've done, and Texas A&M having to play in that physical game against Alabama, plus it being on the road for Texas A&M, I'll go with Tennessee at home. But here's a caveat to that, okay? If Texas A&M can continue that havoc rate in the way that they affected Jalen Milroe, if they can do the same thing to Joe Milton early in that game, create a turnover here and there, it could be a totally different story. But I'm going to trust that Joe Milton and company with 2 weeks to prepare are going to take care of the football, and they're going to find some way to run it a little bit against this Texas A&M vaunted front. And then when they do come up to try to stop the run, take those shots deep. So I'll go Tennessee in a close one at Rocky Top.
Can't wait to see it. We'll probably be talking about it on a live stream Saturday night. Usually run those around 9 Centralish, depending on when games are wrapping up and all that. So best way to catch that, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. That helps our analytics. For Blayne Gilmer, I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. Thanks for watching our content here. Plenty more of it on the way. Oh, by the way, basketball season coming up. Tennessee and A&M both got teams that are going to be ranked in the preseason. We're going to be talking about your basketball teams starting this week. So again, another reason to subscribe. Thanks for watching us here at Southeastern 14. We'll see you again soon.